because I want to talk about three different kinds of fire. I want to talk about the fires of climate disruption. I want to talk about the fires of hate that are also surging. And then I want to talk about the most important fire, which is our fire, okay? It is our fire, the fires that we are kindling here in Iowa and across the country, and in people's movements like this one that are spreading like wildfire around the world, from Hong Kong to Chile to Lebanon. People's movements that are coming together to put out those other flames, those flames that are both fueled by greed. So are you with me? All right. We got to get through those other two fires first, okay? Those climate fires. And I know you're here because you understand this. You don't need much convincing. And because here in Iowa you are living it. You're living it with drought, with the disruption of growing patterns, and of course you are dealing with it with flood after flood after flood. And in other parts of the country, they are dealing with record-breaking hurricane after record-breaking hurricane, pounding them again and again and again, whether it's Florida or Puerto Rico or Texas. And the state of California is once again battling historic wildfires. And just yesterday was 1 year since the Paradise Fire, the Camp Fire, the deadliest fire in the history of the state, which killed 86 people and destroyed around 19,000 structures. So this is just the barest glimpse of a world on fire, where these kinds of disasters are already stealing many thousands upon thousands of lives and forcing millions to leave their homelands. 1 year ago, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change told us that we must keep warming levels below 1.5 degrees Celsius, because we are already seeing this kind of unraveling of our natural systems with just 1 degree warming. And they said that it is technically possible to do with existing technologies, but it is really hard. What they said we had to do is cut global emissions by 45% in just 12 years. And in rich countries like this one, which is the world's largest historical emitter of greenhouse gases, we have to do it even faster, because that is what is fair. So they said it is possible, but in the summary of their report, they said it would take unprecedented, this is a quote from climate scientists, not the Sanders campaign, unprecedented transformation in virtually every aspect of society. And they listed what those are. Transportation, as you heard, right? Of course, energy, of course, building construction and housing, and of course, agriculture. The building blocks of our society are built around fossil fuels. It requires fundamental transformation, not tinkering around the edges with technocratic solutions, right? We have to understand this. And what a Green New Deal says, you saw in that video that we produced, starring one of our next speakers, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and of course illustrated by the absolutely brilliant Molly Crabapple, who we heard from earlier. And it was such a joy to work on that project, because it makes it so clear that what we need to do is, if we are going to change virtually every aspect of our society, if we are going to change the building blocks of our society to meet the crisis of climate disruption, then why would we rebuild the building blocks of our society according to the same inequalities, the same pathologies that scar our world right now? If we are rebuilding anyway, why don't we build right? Why don't we build a Green New Deal for everyone? we understand, right, that when these climate disasters hit, whether it's in Iowa or whether it is in California or whether it is in New Orleans or whether it is Puerto Rico or whether it is Somalia, when these crises hit, it isn't just the weather that makes them lethal, right? It is the intersection of this heavy, unprecedented weather with a public infrastructure that has been allowed to erode and collapse. Maybe it's been attacked by war. Maybe it is because of a legacy of colonialism, as in Puerto Rico. Maybe it is because of racism and neoliberalism and colonialism. But what we know is that these levees, they should have protected New Orleans, and they should be protecting Iowa, and they are breaking because of the systematic neglect of the public sphere that is the legacy of these projects, that is the legacy of the political and economic project that wages war on everything that is collective, that everything that we hold in common, that told us that there is no such thing as society. So of course, that political class that believed in that toxic ideology has utterly failed to rise to the existential challenge that is climate change. They don't believe we can do things together. They believe all we can do is shop for a different world. Of course they have failed, and they are fired. It is our turn now. So we have this very short window to get this done. And it's not just that we're not doing it, right? It's worse than that. It isn't just that we are not dousing the flames. It's that in country after country, including this one, it is the arsonists who are rising to the highest offices in their land. Trump, Bolsonaro, Modi, Duterte, this whole gang of strongmen around the world. And what do these guys do? They have a playbook, and they share it, and they swap it, right? First of all, they wage war on the idea of objective truth, right? And they wage war on the media and cry fake news and the rest of it, and use these technologies, these new technologies, to spread lies. And what they are so very, very good at doing is defining an in-group in their respective countries, a protected group, right? The real Americans, right? Or the real Indians, or the real Brazilians, whatever it is. And then using these supremacist ideologies, and yes, in this country it is most certainly white supremacy, and saying, okay, these are the out groups. These are the out groups inside our countries and at the borders trying to get into our countries. And they pit everybody against each other, right? This is what they do so well. And what I think we really have not really grasped yet is how these two fires are related to one another. That it isn't a coincidence that at this moment when the climate crisis becomes impossible to deny, when it is no longer this crisis off in the distance but is banging down our doors, that at this very moment, these figures who are so expert in the art of division, right, in the craft of spreading hate, come to power in country after country, and they feed off of insecurity. The insecurity that is the legacy of that 40-year or longer project of neoliberal austerity that has attacked labor standards, that has attacked social safety nets, that has spread insecurity like wildfire, and they have said to those in-groups, you will be protected. We will protect you against the people least responsible for this. That is their recipe. But they're also tapping into the ecological fear that we all feel. And look, I don't care if people say that they believe or they don't believe in climate change. I believe that we all know on a cellular level that there is something deeply wrong with our common home. And that is spreading a profound sense of insecurity that is now being exploited by the right? And they are offering their toxic so-called solutions. We will protect you against the other, right? Against the drug dealer, against the rapist, against the criminal, against the invader, right? Do we think it is a coincidence that these two fires are raging at the same time? It is not. It is part of the same phenomenon. And as these strong men turn their populations against each other, that frees them up for the real business at hand, which is pillaging the last remaining protected wildernesses on this planet from the Amazon to the Arctic. That's what they want to do. That's what they're about. And that, of course, fuels those planetary fires, right? When they deforest the Amazon and warm the planet. And that fuels the droughts and the superstorms and the floods, the fires that force millions to flee their arid lands, the fires that intensify armed conflicts, which also fuels migration, displacement, which is then used as fuel for those fires of hate. We are in a cycle now. Do you see this? It fuels the arguments for further militarizing borders and incarcerating migrants and tearing children from their parents. And it's even more frightening than that, because we are now seeing fascist and neo-fascist political figures in Europe, but it's seeping into North America as well, drop the charade of climate change denial and instead cast the global ecological crisis as some kind of divine corrective, a way of cleansing the world of lesser humans. We cannot win this fight without battling white supremacy. The battles have converged. So these are the stakes of our historical moment. It is not just about things getting hotter and wetter, though it is about that too. It is about, within this toxic system, things getting meaner and uglier, and an economic system that tells people that they're all on their own and that their neighbor is their enemy, and those feelings of scarcity being used in the context of ecological breakdown to build a more unequal society. You know, and we have seen this as the plot line of every bad disaster film we have ever seen. This is the future we've imagined for ourselves. It's the only future Hollywood can give us. That's why we made that video with Molly Crabapple and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because we need to imagine a different future so badly, because how are we going to get there if we can't see it? So those are the two fires that we are up against. And here is why we cannot give in to terror and despair. Because we do not live in a time of just two fires, the climate fires and those fires of hate. We live in a time, and I deeply believe this, we live in a time of three fires. There is a third fire, and it is also blazing. It is our fire. The fires, these fires for demanding true climate justice and standing up to all forms of capitalist exploitation that are coming together and converging around the world. And what is so exciting about the Green New Deal is that it is a battle for putting out both of these fires. It is a plan to get our emissions down to zero, to get to 100% renewable energy. But it is also a plan to attack those feelings of insecurity, to put in a floor for people, to say you all have a right to education, to housing, to health care. And this is what spreads scarcity and allows people to feel that they're actually in this together. This is not an add-on. It is not a laundry list of everything the left has ever wanted. This is a holistic vision in a time of overlapping and intersecting crises. Our fires are the fires of the youth climate strikers, who had 7 to 8 million people out in a single week, the largest climate mobilization in the history of this planet. Ours are the fires of the indigenous rights movements who are putting their bodies on the line to stop pipelines and fracking on both sides of the border and protect the Amazon as they have always done. Ours are the fires of the fossil fuel divestment movement. I don't know if you heard this, but last month the University of California system announced that their $80 billion portfolio was going to divest from fossil fuels. That brings the total number of funds of various kinds, pension funds, university endowments, that have committed to divesting to $11 trillion. You'd think that'd be more of a news story. And ours are the fires of the climate justice movement, led predominantly by racialized frontline communities fighting dirty industries and extractive projects in their backyards and their front yards, who created the intellectual framework that is now being called the Green New Deal. And ours are also the fires of the Sunrise Movement, who take their name from that great ball of life-giving fire in the sky, and who put the Green New Deal on the map when you guys occupied the offices of Nancy Pelosi after the midterm election. So yes, the Green New Deal is guided by science, but it also recognizes that in this moment of multiple fires, of overlapping and intersecting crises, we cannot play my crisis is bigger than your crisis. First we save the planet, then we'll deal with racism, then we'll deal with economic inequality with a little, maybe we'll just have a carbon tax. No, this is a plan for the next economy now, and everybody is included. But here's the thing, we are not going to win the world that we need, not just the world that we want, but the world that we need, if we are kind of sort of in favor of it. We are going to have to be on fire for it, okay? And that is why I support Bernie Sanders to be the next president of the United States. Because Bernie understands that this is the fight of our lives, and yeah, we are up against powerful forces. And that means we need to organize an incredibly powerful movement to stand up to those forces. I could sit here and tell you why Bernie's Green New Deal plan is better than all the other candidates, and it is, by far, but that is not even the real reason why I support Bernie for president. I support Bernie because there's no point in having a good Green New Deal plan if you're not building the movement to win it. That zero means I'm out of time, right? I couldn't actually see it. Am I out of time? Can someone tell me? All right. All right. I don't know if I'm out of time. I'm just going to end with a little bit more fire for you guys, okay? Now, the kind of fire that we need to find in ourselves is not the fires of destruction and annihilation that we have seen in California, that we have seen in the Amazon, these fires that leave scorched earth behind. Fire is also a life-giving force. And for millennia, indigenous people have used fire to clear away debris, to clear away dead wood and make room for new growth. And the fire clears away the debris, and the ash feeds the soil. And it prevents those wildfires that are so destructive. And that is the kind of fire that we need to locate in ourselves so that we can truly be in this moment. We need to clear away whatever debris is standing in our way, is keeping us from being in this fight with everything that we have, because everything is on the line. and we need to clear away the debris on the outside. We need to clear away the debris of the climate change deniers who are still out there, soaked in fossil fuel money, spreading doubt and misinformation in this moment when we cannot afford that. We need a movement that burns bright and hot enough to clear away that debris. And we also need a movement that burns bright and hot enough to burn away the debris of the distractors. All of this distraction coming at us, telling us that everything is more important than this, telling us that we should just follow whatever Trump's latest tweet is, or whatever the latest celebrity gossip is, or whatever it is. We need to clear away the debris of the distractors. And we also need to clear away the debris of the doomers. I don't know if you know who I mean. Some of my friends call them the doomer dudes. These are the people who have sort of turned a fetish into the idea that it's all too late, right? We're doomed. We're too selfish. You know, all we are is just, we're just atomized individuals anyway. They've confused human nature with capitalism, and so they tell us we'll never rise to this challenge. We need to clear away the debris of the doomers. And most of all, we need to clear away the debris of the dividers, turning us against one another, pitting us against each other when we need to be more united, more powerful than we have ever been before. We cannot mess this up. We cannot blow this. There are no second chances. And that is why I'm here tonight. In 2016, I supported Bernie by writing a couple of articles, but I kept my distance. I am not keeping my distance now. There is a democratic socialist with a chance of winning this election, running on the Green New Deal of our dreams. So this is not a moment to wait and see which way the wind is blowing. This is the moment to create our own weather. Thanks, my friends.
Please welcome back to the stage Lynn County Supervisor Stacey Walker.